Hello everybody, my name is Paul from Cryonetic. In today's video we'll be creating this ceramic tile. We'll be using a PBR method. We'll be going into some PBR reference charts and I'll show you how to just set up your material in Unreal so it will do these reflections. As you can see, that cube is reflected there, and just these areas of the tile that just don't reflect the same, where the light bounces off of them differently and they look almost like stains. So if you want to learn something about PBR, I urge you to stick around. This is quite a long tutorial, but I guarantee that you will learn something new at the end. Alright, so let's get started. So this is your basic Blender startup scene. This is what you get when you first load up Blender. The only thing that I changed the units to metric, and I enable screencast keys here at the bottom left so that you'll be able to see which buttons I am pushing. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to delete everything in our scene. I'm going to the top view and then into orthographic view. I'm going to add a plain mesh, and this should be like its standard size. Let's just get the size there, 2 by 2 meters. And I'm going to deselect that one and I'm going to add another one. Just going to Z to go into wireframe mode, and I'm going to scale it down, holding control. And then I'm going to move it up. Okay, I'm just going to move it to around about there. Tab to go into edit mode and just snap it to grid to make sure that it's snapping to grid. And then what I want to do is essentially the entire block is divided up into 20 by 20 by 20 by 20 units. So this block over here is 10 by 10 units, and then what I want to do is I want to make my block just slightly smaller than 5 by 5 so that I can fit 2 in here, 2 in here, and then same over here. So what I'm going to do is just zoom in a little bit more, and then you see the bigger blocks here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just gonna select this vertex and holding control, drag it off to there. And then the same over here, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 6. So this one needs to be about there. And then this one, we're just going to line up with the other ones. So keeping one grid unit space between it over here, what this will do is, because we're creating tiles, it will essentially, when we create the second one, it will leave 2 units of space, and then when we tile it with another one, there will be 2 units of space and 2 units of space over there. So this is just us setting up our scene a little bit, or the tiling up early on. So let's go into object mode. Oh wait, first one more thing we have to do in edit mode. I'm going to subdivide. I'm going to do this a few times. That should be enough. So it was 4 subdivisions. Then I'm going to select the middle vertex, then holding control and then push the plus key on your numpad until you select all the way to over there. Going to the front view, zoom in a little bit, holding control again, and I'm just going to drag up 2 grid units, and then you'll see we have a slight bit of a bevel there. So let's just go out of wireframe mode, and then you can see what it looks like. With that now selected, what I want to do is over here, go to the add modifier, and we're going to add a subdivision surface. And we're going to do it, I think, let's see what 3 looks like. 3 looks pretty good. So what you do here is, if you look at view changes your direct viewport, what you're currently looking at. Render would be if you want to render textures or anything, so you can change this to a higher value. It will not affect this one in your viewport yet, but if you change the view one, you'll notice at the top here that triangles do go up, and eventually we're going to hit like a slowdown if we do it too much. But I think 3 was enough. So we're just going to leave it relatively the same, 3 and 3. And then just here on your left, under your tools, we're just going to enable smooth shading. Then you'll see that there's a difference, the blockiness over there, and that's gone. So now just Z to go into wireframe mode again. I'm going to hold Shift D, and then holding Control, I'm just going to drag off a copy. And then selecting both, Shift D, and drag it down. And now you see what I mean by earlier that they are going to tile. So there's 4 going to be here, 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 and here. So I'm going to select all 4 of these, Control J to join them, to make it a little bit easier. Shift D, then holding Control, and then select this one, Shift D, holding Control, and there we go. Our tiles are essentially done. So just one more thing, I'm going to select all 4 of them, hit Control J so that they are joined into a singular plane. So whenever we select these ones, we're essentially selecting all of them. I'm just going to set its origin to the center of the mass, so the origin of it is in the center of the entire mesh. Okay, so what we want to do now is, let's just hide this. This is our plane that we created in the beginning. We're going to tab to go into edit mode. We're going to hit U and then just UV unwrap. Then here at the bottom you'll see there's like a little triangle that we can drag off from. You can either do that, or you could just go to the top here, wait till your cursor changes and just split the area. But I did it like that. So you go into your UV image editor. And essentially what you see here is a very basic unwrap that we did for this plane. It's pretty basic. There's nothing special because the plane is just completely flat. It doesn't have any additional faces. So this is what we're going to use for our bases. So here at the bottom in your UV image editor, click New. And we're going to create a 2048 by 2048 texture. And I'm going to call it Bake. Okay, so if we deselect, you'll see that there's the texture. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to hit Alt-H to unhide. We're going to select our tiles that we made. We're going to hold Shift and select the plane. You'll notice that the plane is selected. If you just go slightly off, you'll notice that both of them are selected. We're going to go into our Bake tab. Scroll all the way, sorry, that's the Render tab. Scroll all the way to the bottom where it says Bake. I'm going to change this to normals. Select it to active, and that should be fine. And then we can just click Bake. I'll just wait for that to bake out. And there we go. We got our tile normal map already set out. So I'm going to save this image. I'm going to call this tile 01 norm. Save as. And then with everything still selected like that, I'm going to bake ambient occlusion. Now I have noticed some artifacts on my ambient occlusion map prior to creating this video. So there might be some errors, but you can always clean that up in your image editor afterwards. So let's just see what it does here. You see these artifacts over here. I have absolutely no idea why it does that. I've tried all the settings, I've changed everything, I've increased the quality, I've done everything. It still makes this odd line that runs down just those tiles over there. So I'm not too sure why it does that, but we'll clean it up in our image program. AO. Then we're going to make one more, which is going to be, let's do displacement. Displacement will actually be not really that necessary, but it does come off a little bit lighter as what the ambient occlusion does. So it is quite useful, so we're just going to save that out. Okay, there we go. Then one last thing that you can actually do if you really want to, you can select your tile separately. You can go over to your materials tab, just click new, and we can do a diffuse, just a plain white diffuse, and specular we can switch off. Just shadeless so we can see what it looks like, and we can try and bake a texture off of this. So let's just quickly see if that works. There we go. So you see, essentially what I did there is I applied a solid color material to the tiles over there, and then just bake them to a texture. So essentially we can load all of these directly into Unreal if we really wanted to, and they would look okay. Not the best, but it would be a usable tile model that we can create use in our game. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to jump over to GIMP, and I'm just going to let's just open all of these. Okay, so you might recognize this from my previous PBR tutorial. This is the Quixel Megascan reference chart. Now this is all that it really is. It's a reference chart. I've come to find that some of these values don't really work all that well with Unreal. So it's a hit and miss kind of when you're going. You'll notice that sometimes you look at it, it kind of looks okay, and sometimes it just doesn't work. So there is another one. I'll put the link for both of these in the description below. This is the DONTNOD Entertainment reference chart for Unreal Engine 4. Now, if you're unfamiliar with them, they created the video game Remember Me and Life is Strange. So Life is Strange is one of the more recent games. So the reference chart here is exactly that. It's a reference chart. So it will kind of match up to some of the areas or some of the things here with the Quixel Megascan chart, but not quite 100%. Some of the colors might match up and some of the others won't. So essentially what you want to do is you want to try and find your own baseline. You're just using this as a reference. You can, like, for instance, see we're going to create a ceramic tile. Now there is one here, and if we look at that one, let's just quickly grab the albedo, and we're going to fill it over here. So double check. Oops, sorry, I didn't grab it. It says 199, and if we look at, let's say this is going to be somewhere around about clean cement, maybe a little bit higher. So if we look at that reference and we click here, and you'll see that's 192. So these two are actually pretty close. So 199 doesn't sound that far off. So we're going to aim for like a little bit higher than that, probably somewhere along the lines of a medium value of about probably 210, somewhere around there. So that's just what I want to explain to you, is that a PBR is pretty much going to be what you are defining your scene to be. You're never going to get 100% accuracy with any of the reference charts. You just kind of have to like find the middle ground. So sometimes you might get exactly the same values across the board, and then everyone else's values will look exactly the same as yours, and sometimes yours might differ a little bit, but it's all using the reference and then just getting better at creating the textures. So with that said, let's skip the boring stuff. I notice here that it seems that it created that slight distortion on every single one of my bakes that I did. I honestly don't know. It's very small. You cannot see it from this type of distance. So I'm gonna ignore it for now and just think of it as just a bug. Alright, so what we want to do is we want to get a value of roughly 220 on these tiles over here. So we're probably never going to get that value on these tiles because they are a pure white, and you'll see that there is just a slight little dip up there, while if you look at some of these other ones, they go a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a layer, and just this color that we used before, I am going to create a new layer, transparent, drag it down, and I'm going to fill it with that color. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove it. I'm going to desaturate it so it's not a color and just a complete grayscale. And then taking my tile, I'm going to just slightly reduce, I think, to about 80%. Then you'll notice that the background color comes out a little bit more and the foreground color stays there. So with that done, I'm going to create a new from visible and just hide the other two, and then you'll see that it's got color on its own, and there's got a value of roughly 240. Let's just see if we can change the levels on this. There you go, and push up the whites actually again. I don't want to push the whites too much. Let's do that. So there's my value, roughly about 220. Let's just push it maybe a little bit more this way. There we go. I'm going to click OK, and that is going to be my diffuse or my albedo map. So I'm going to export this as, let's call this albedo 01. And then let's see, this was okay. So let's just stay on our albedo map here. So what you want to do is basically in Unreal, you're going to use a roughness map to get your reflections or your shininess out of your model, because this isn't a metallic or your material, sorry, because this isn't a metallic model. I will show you the material setup, but what we're going to do here is I am going to just invert the colors, and well, let's actually just look at our reference chart and then just see. You could see here roughness wise, pitch black is shiny, and then white is like a matte color. So if we're going for something like a ceramic, I think we're probably looking here at the 0.2, between the 0.2 and the 0.3 range. So I'm just going to color pick here by the 0.2. I'm going to paste, and I'm going to look at the histogram. It's a medium of roughly 40. I'm just going to check here as well, just to just for fun. See on the ceramic side here on the Quixel Megascan chart. So that one says 40. This one says 130. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that between Quixel and Unreal, I think the colors are inverted. So you can use this reference still, but you would need to use a 1- node in Unreal to actually get the inverted color. So let's just actually see inverted. No, that doesn't do much, but I'm gonna go with the value of this one here, which was 40. So let's just see, that's pretty close. So I'm just going to change the levels and actually push down the black colors and just click OK. Alright, then one more thing that I want to do is, because I now got my base values and everything sorted out, I'm just going to create a new layer. We're going to make it transparent. And what we're going to do here is I want to add in scratches. For instance, the tile might be scratched on certain parts. Now those parts of the tile they're not going to be shiny as much as what the tile is. So we're going to select a full-on white. We're going to select a brush, and then just any one of these normal brush filters that comes equipped with GIMP. I'm going to use the scratch one, and I'm just going to increase the size. It's maybe a bit much, but I'm going to decrease the opacity, because if we go like full on, it's like, that's way too much. So the opacity, obviously if you have a Wacom tablet, this would be significantly easier to do. So let's actually push it down all the way so far as, yeah, almost 3. So I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to make like a scratch across and use some of these other brushes just for some dirt effects. And you can just like experiment with brushes. I would highly suggest like downloading some brushes off of the internet. You can find a lot of free ones. I don't have any currently available with me, but what you're essentially doing is you're just adding some areas where it's not going to be shiny. So think of it as maybe the corners have dirt or something like that, so you can do something like that. But I'm just playing around with it pretty much at the current moment. Okay, now it seems that I'm actually doing quite a lot, but most of this is probably not even going to be visible because of the relatively light color tones that I'm using. So if you want to get a little bit more depth to it, you can just duplicate the layer, and that might be a bit too much. So that's what I'm going for. I'm going to export this as my roughness map. And just wait for that. And then, well, obviously, let's just, for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to export this plane that we used before and to bake our textures, because it already has been UV unwrapped and everything, so we don't need to do much to it. So I'm going to call this tile test 01, just to add something to it. And the settings that you want to use, now constantly the settings are changing between Blender and Unreal, so for just this I'm going to leave everything the same, except I'm going to change the smoothing group to edge detect and remove a leaf bone and just leave it as is, and just click export. One quick thing to remember, I forgot, click selected objects only, otherwise it's going to export all those separate models that we created as well. So I'm going to jump into Unreal. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this my PBR test. I'm going to open it, and I'm going to import everything that I created. So the tile test, the albedo, the ambient occlusion, not the diffuse. Displacement map, I don't think we're really going to use that, but we'll import it anyway. And the roughness map and the tile normal. We're going to import all of these. And just wait for them to import. I'm going to right click, I'm going to create a new material. I'm going to call this tile. Let's try that again. Tile 01 mat. I'm going to open it, and I'm just going to drag everything but my displacement map into it. Now, I would suggest reading up on the Unreal Engine, how it works regarding metallic and roughness. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to connect our roughness, which is this one over here. And then you'll immediately start seeing some change. We'll just keep going like here. This is our albedo. Okay, there we go. You'll see some shininess there. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to use a constant value of 0. Now basically what this will tell you is it metallic or isn't it? And it's not metallic, so the value is going to be 0. If it is metallic, you can actually push this value up over here, and then you'll see it will like have a completely different value over there. So we're going to keep this at 0 because it's not metallic at all. This is our ambient occlusion. I'm just going to hook that up. And our normal map. Let's just see what this looks like on a flat plane. Okay, our shiny parts did not come through all that much, but I can fix it up just now. I just wanted to get this into the world, and then I'll show you a little bit further what else. Okay, so let's just minimize this. Wait, first we probably need to just apply and save. And this is my tile test. As you can see, I left the values completely as is, and everything seemed to export like the correct height. So just always, before you work on anything, just test your FBX exporter and just make sure that everything works. And I'm just going to drag this off. Okay, it's a little bit big, so I'm just going to jump back into the material. I'm going to type in just coordinate. You'll see that they're texture coordinate. And then we want it to tile. So first things, let's just hook all of these up. Okay, so let's do 2 by 2. Okay, let's just click apply and see what that looks like. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's click play. Okay. Oh, sorry if the volume popped there. So I'm just going to select all of these and then just make like a big wall. I'm gonna hit play again. Okay, I did not rebuild the lighting, so there might be some artifacts or just strangeness here. So you'll notice that we do not see our roughness map, those little areas that we created, but I would suggest you jump back into your image editor and just change that. These shadows over here obviously are we getting because we didn't bake the lighting, we just like stacked everything on top of each other. So if you look at this, this actually looks pretty good. It's got the nice shiny value to it. You'll see that over there, nice shiny line. The texture looks pretty good. When you get up close, it's shining. It reflects just enough of it to actually look like proper tiles or ceramic tiles. Now, just quickly, I'm just going to cut the video here, and I'm just going to go back into the image editor and just add a little bit more white spots onto my roughness map. So give me 1 second. Alright, so what I did here is I increased the white values. You can see here like the difference. What you can also do is you can create like a completely separate texture with just a transparent background, basically like an alpha texture, and just fill in the whites. And then you can add what you call a multiply. Let's just see here, where you would add in value A, which is your normal texture, and then multiply it by value B, which would be your alpha texture, and then you input it into your roughness map. When you do that, it will increase the value of the white, obviously, and then give you a little bit better texture on the side without having to continuously go in and out and change your textures. So with that done, I just want to look up close, and there you go. You can see all the areas that aren't reflecting as much. They're still reflecting light, but they're like a matte color. So that is how we put the dirt on the tiles, and to give you a nicer effect on your tiles itself. So I hope you guys enjoyed this rather long tutorial, which is like a second introduction to PBR. This is a little bit more complex. I will be covering other textures that we will create, because this is the start of a scene that we will be creating for Unreal Engine 4. So I hope you guys like what you saw. If you did, leave a like. Please subscribe to my channel. I will be uploading more videos, and we will be continuing this further study into PBR, and hopefully we'll get like very awesome looking scenes. And I thank you all very much for watching. Thank you. Bye bye.